Hello, my friends. Today we're talking about all the ways that hackers steal crypto, money, and precious data from people like you and like me, and more importantly, how you can stop these hackers in their tracks. By the end of this video, you'll be aware of the most common ways that hackers target you and how you can protect yourself. That said, if you like crypto or you want to learn more about topics like personal cybersecurity, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the little notification bell button, and you get a heads up whenever I post new videos every single week. Now, you came here to learn how to secure yourself against hackers' attempts to steal from you. So let's kick this off with the first of the 5 major points for the day, and these are in no particular order, by the way. But the first common way that hackers are able to extract information from you, or worse, steal more than just data, is through a clever Wi-Fi related exploit that targets your smartphone. We all have them, we all use them, we all love them, well, most of us. And you'll probably know the dangers of using public unsecured Wi-Fi at your neighborhood Starbucks, for example, without some sort of mechanism for securing your connection, like a VPN, for example. But a simple default behavior on your phone could be putting you at risk without you realizing it. And it works a little bit like this. When you first join a public Wi-Fi network at Starbucks, for example, your phone registers that network's SSID, or Service Set Identifier, which is essentially the Wi-Fi network name. For convenience, most smartphones' default behavior is to remember that network SSID and automatically join that network when you're in range of it, which makes sense for one's home network, because when you go back into your house and you've been out, you want your phone to jump right back on your Wi-Fi so you're not using data around the house. But it can be a real issue when this feature is used in public. First of all, your phone could simply hop onto an unsecured public network without you even realizing it at the airport, for example. And if you're making a payment online or you're logging into a sensitive account like social media, you could be exposing sensitive information or payment details to snooping eyes on that public network without even realizing it. Even worse still, hackers are now exploiting this simple setting on your phone by creating hotspots and networks all over the world with these common SSIDs, hoping that your phone auto-connects to it without you knowing so they can intercept information, potentially spread malware, or extract information from you without you realizing it along the way. And this feature works on your phone like this. It's basically constantly searching for familiar or known Wi-Fi networks so it can keep you connected to Wi-Fi whenever possible. And when auto join is on, your phone could unwittingly join a public network created by a nefarious actor that created that network with the same SSID as a network you've used before. That said, here is how to protect yourself from this exploit. First, on your phone, make sure that you set it up so that it asks you before joining Wi-Fi. This is available on all types of phones. And more specifically, when you join a new network outside of your home, turn off the auto join feature for that network. On iPhone, all these settings are in the Wi-Fi menu, and you can find the auto join by clicking the blue I button next to Wi-Fi network names in the list. On Android, these settings can deviate a little bit depending on the manufacturer and their own skin on Android, so refer to the settings menu on your particular phone to find these settings. The second most common way that hackers take advantage of people is by circumventing poorly configured two-factor authentication, which often gives people this false sense of security, especially on their most sensitive accounts like banks, crypto exchanges, and more. Lots of value there. Here's the deal. SMS or text message-based two-factor authentication is worse than not having two-factor authentication at all. It sounds controversial. That might be shocking to you, but it's true. There's an ever-present exploit called a SIM swap, where a nefarious actor socially engineers or otherwise convinces your mobile service provider to switch your phone number to a SIM card in their control. And then that hacker is able to receive your two-factor authentication codes to a device in their possession. And this can happen in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, in the middle of the day, and by the time you realize it, your accounts, including your bank, your social media, could have long since been taken over. And this is a headache that you just don't want to deal with. Trust me, I've seen many people deal with this. It's not fun. Because of this fact, if you have social media accounts, medical related accounts, and financial accounts with any value in them, you should ensure with those accounts that you are not using SMS two-factor authentication, period. The good news is that it's very, very easy to protect yourself from this. Even in the event that you are SIM swapped, you can minimize the damage that a hacker can possibly do with one simple step. All you have to do is use token-based two-factor authentication using an app and/or hardware security keys. Instead of receiving a text that can be intercepted or rerouted, your two-factor authentication codes are generated right on your phone, right on your computer, which is far more secure than SMS. You can achieve this by using an app like Google Authenticator, which is totally free, very common, or you can go for maximum security by opting to use a combination of a hardware security key like a YubiKey plus the Yubico Authenticator app. But either way you slice it, you're in for way better results by doing this. It's very simple to set up. You just scan a QR code or enter an alphanumeric secret that a website like Google provides you when setting up 2FA. You load it into the app and boom, your first 2FA code pops up, you confirm it on the website and you're done. I do have a video on how to set up the most secure 2FA setup possible in my Yubico Authenticator video, which I will link in the description if you'd like to watch that after you're done here. But anyway, the main point to take away here is that if you want to protect accounts, you need to protect the 2FA codes from falling into the wrong hands, right? Because then the 2FA that you're set up, the two-factor authentication does the job it's supposed to do, which is keeping unauthorized parties from accessing your account, even in cases where they might have your password. So any website or service that manages sensitive data or money or value of any kind that doesn't offer anything but SMS 2FA is not deserving of your time or patronage, and you should promptly request closure of your account and deletion of your data if possible. Now, somewhat related to this last method that hackers use to gain access to your sensitive data or resources via 2FA is the very common issue of poor password practices. It is no secret that most people use categorically bad passwords that are composed of their own names or easily sourced information from their social profiles like a pet's name or pop culture references that have no uniqueness. Worse yet, people reuse these already poor passwords on virtually every site they sign up for so they can easily remember it, which means that if a hacker gets into one account, they can get into basically any other account that you have. And this is not a surprise because it's hard to remember the sheer number of passwords that we have to function in today's society. But here's why you must fix this practice in your own day-to-day use of technology. Data breaches are very common nowadays. If you read the news, if you watch the news, you see it all the time. A company where you have an account might accidentally allow hackers to get lists of information, including but not limited to your email, your password, your address, and more. Then these lists get posted for sale on the plethora of back alley websites on the dark web, where hackers can, for surprisingly cheap prices, mind you, get all of this data to use for their hacking endeavors. With this information, hackers then simply test out usernames, emails, and passwords on different websites until they get a hit, and then they use that information to get into other sites once they have that. So if you reuse passwords, you could be in for a really bad day because a hacker can very quickly take over a ton of accounts once they get one hit with that combo of username and password. That said, it's also very easy to stop this type of attack in its tracks. There is both a free method and a paid method, a very cheap paid method, mind you, to do this. The no-cost way is to simply use a method for creating unique and strong passwords for each site you use in an easy-to-remember way. And this method that I use is what I like to call the people-friendly passphrase method, which swaps a hard-to-remember password with all these special characters and numbers with a longer but easier-to-remember passphrase. Human beings remember things based on association and word flow. So by creating a passphrase or a sentence, a collection of words that form a phrase or sentence that has some association in your mind between the website you're on and the passphrase, can make it more easily memorable when you need to go log into a site. For example, for Spotify, you might choose to make a 5 to 7 word passphrase which incorporates your favorite song lyric, which is long and tough to guess because only you really know what your favorite song lyric is, and only you will make the association between that passphrase and Spotify. Now, if all that seems to be too much effort, then I would recommend picking up a password manager to handle this for you. It's a software, not a physical person. Personally, my favorite app to do this is Dashlane, which has a mobile app, a browser extension, a web app, and more to handle the storage of your passwords and automatically filling forms and login pages for you securely, but it will also generate secure passwords for you when you sign up for new accounts and save them for you. These tools are indispensable for those who want a secure and easy way to manage and store unique passwords for each app and site that they use. So you can get a password manager for like $3 to $5 per month, and you can use it to handle all your passwords and sensitive payment data. And most of these password manager apps will also monitor common data breaches and notify you if you need to change an exposed or repeated password. So either way that you decide to implement this, the free way or the paid way, it'll cover you on this critical avenue that hackers use against you. Now, next up on the list is one that often surprises people because it's always been talked about like it really only targets the elderly or people that are not 100% tech savvy in this space, but it's quite frankly not true. This targets everyone. And the topic here is phishing, which comes from many different forms. It comes in many different sophisticated packages. You'd be very surprised. And in general, this is how it works. A malicious actor will create fake emails and web pages that are designed exclusively to trick you into giving up your passwords, payment data, sensitive data, and more. Most commonly, these nefarious actors will make carbon copies of common banking sites, streaming services, etc. that look and feel exactly like the real deal, but they're really just fronts for theft of your money and data. Nowadays, people are much more aware of this and will most often check the URL of the site or take a good look at the email sender address to confirm that it's legitimate or not. And in response to this due diligence, the improved due diligence, hackers are now trying to get you to override your natural inclination to double check and be careful by making you feel a sense of urgency and desperation to interact with their booby-trapped webpage or email. Here's a common example. You might get an email that says, square brackets, action required in all caps. Your account is in overdraft. Log in to view your account and fix the problem. Messages like this are designed to trigger the chemicals in your brain that make you stressed and feel rushed so that you don't notice the warning signs that this is a scam. And we're all susceptible to this because we're human beings. We see that we might have made a mistake, like our payment method is lapsing for Netflix or our account on our bank is in overdraft, and we hurriedly rush to fix it immediately. Hackers are betting on this because they can get you to go log into their fake site and get your password. They can get you to enter your credit card info without thinking. But here's how to protect yourself from this. The key is preparation and awareness, so you can build good habits and be ready when these things inevitably come your way. Whenever you receive an email that's eliciting some kind of immediate action or response from you, you should first check the sender email address in the from line to make sure it's from the actual domain the sender should be. If you get a message from your Google account, make sure that the domain is google.com. If it's from Google, it will be. If you aren't sure, take a screenshot with the sender email address visible and the message and send it to the support email or chat for the company you think it might be from. Or you can call their customer service line. But here's the magic secret. No matter what email you get, no matter what letter you get, there's no difference between you taking action in a day or in 1 minute. These things can always wait. So take your time and make sure it's real before you do anything else. If your Netflix payment method is expired or is failing, the SWAT team is not going to swoop in and take over your place a day after if you just want to confirm the email is real. Okay, so take your time. When you do go to the website and enter sensitive info of any kind, just get in the habit of checking the URL to make sure nothing is fishy. It's always a great fail-safe to keep you protected. All right, so we're down to the last of the list today. And this is one that is really, really easy to avoid, but it's still worth mentioning because it's so common. I see it all the time. The prevalence of smartphones and tablets and computers has invariably altered the pattern of behavior for many people. And in the process, it's exposed some potential areas for exploitation by hackers. The most common example of this is the habit that people seem to have for photographing or writing in their phones sensitive data like passwords, PIN codes, credit card numbers, ID numbers, and more. Many times, people will write passwords in their contacts on their phone or in their notes, which back up to the cloud on a regular basis. So they back up to a distant server that you don't have any control over. From here, this data can be exposed in many ways. It can be accessed by compromised passwords, like we talked about before. It can be accessed through exploitation of cloud storage that your phone offers and you have no control over. Or it can be accessed directly on your phone by anyone who just gets their hands on it. If a malicious party were to gain access to a picture of your passport and a few online passwords, they could wreak havoc with that amount of information. That being said, the best policy is to avoid writing down or taking pictures of sensitive information of any kind on your phone. It's just too risky to do so, and the convenience does not warrant the risk. If you need to store passwords, PINs, or payment methods, you should only do so using an adequately encrypted password manager, like I mentioned earlier. So this serves two purposes. It's a great purchase, folks. That way, you have this all on the go, but it's always secured from snooping eyes. This is really just about keeping your sensitive data safe and sound, which is really, really important. Now, often when you're watching YouTube, the blanket advice for security and privacy on the internet is to use a VPN, which it's a fine piece of advice, but it's far from a holistic solution to the most common hacking scenarios people face, like the ones we talked about today. A VPN is just one tool in the arsenal, but by no means is it a silver bullet. When used in tandem with these aforementioned strategies, you are on track for a more robust defense against common hacking attempts. That said, yes, if you are interested in learning more about the best VPNs on the market and the best possible deals you can get on them, I do have a video about that, picking my top 3 VPNs that I use on a day-to-day basis, so I'll leave that here if you're interested in checking it out. Otherwise, you can take a look at this playlist containing other useful tips and tools for leveling up your security and privacy online, which I think everyone should do. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you and your family have a wonderful week ahead, and until next time, cheers.